Okay, we're live. Hi, guys. Welcome to Wednesday's The Trader's Journal. I'm Marisa, and we're talking trading, all things mindset and psychology. It's a huge passion of mine. I believe that that's where success in trading lies. And I'm just checking that everything works so that I can get on with this webinar today. Okay, I think it looks all good. Cool. So welcome, guys. I hope your week is going good and you are, I don't want to say getting some wins in, just trading your rules. I hope you are following your processes, following your rules and feeling good about that and starting to connect the feel-good factor with following process, following routines rather than the outcomes. So today we're going to talk about a pretty cool topic, actually. I like this one. It's the biggest mistake that traders make, and in my opinion, I think most traders that fail just never ever figure this out. And it's actually pretty basic, but I do understand why it's hard for us as traders to figure this out because we're sold a different story. So let's just get straight into it because this is actually going to be quite a short webinar. I'm going to get right to the point. It's going to be pretty hard hitting, so I hope I don't offend you if you're doing some of these things, but don't be offended because we've all done mistakes. I've made every mistake in the book, and I've thought all the wrong things about trading for a long time, and I had to figure all this out. So it's a journey, but it's about finding the right path so that you can move forward. That's all we're interested in. Okay, so let's get into it. So most traders never ever figure this out, but most traders are learning and are taught to be analysts, not traders. And there's a huge difference in the two jobs. Now, let's talk about analysts for a minute. In the traditional world of banking and trading and hedge funds, you have analysts that focus on technical information, analyzing charts, data, information, fundamentals. There's analysts for everything. But strictly speaking, on the charts, the analysts are actually looking at the technicals, the levels, the support and resistance. You can subscribe to many publications that will send this information to you on a weekly basis, on a daily basis. There are even signal groups that will send you trading setups. They've done the analysis for you. Now, the reason why we think that this is the job of the trader is that we're sold it as such. People are selling you their courses, their strategies, their signals, their publications. They want you to believe that that's what you need because they're trying to make money. Fine. But that's not the job of a trader. As retail traders, yes, we have to be our own analyst and our own trader, but there's a different job for a trader. A trader is a completely different job. And you can't do your job. If you're struggling with trading, it's because you can't do your job if you don't know what your job is. Now, analyzing your charts is not your job. That's work you should have already done. You should know when certain patterns present, you need to now be doing. That's the job of the trader, is to do. The analysis is done. You should already have done that as part of setting up what your strategy is going to be when you're back testing. So when you see the patterns form and you decide, okay, I'm going to trade this, you've already done all the analysis. When you're trading, you're not doing the analysis. You're now the trader. So you have to understand what the job of a trader is. Okay. So now that we understand what an analyst does, they're looking at the charts, the technicals, the indicators, the is it, isn't it? Okay. The trader's job is the doing bit. It's completely a behavioral doing job. So instead of me now giving you a list of here are the things the trader needs to do, let's move this into the real world. So if you were in a Formula One team, The analyst is like being the engineers, the engineering team. The trader is the driver. They're the doer. Now, the driver needs to understand the engineering. They probably can get quite involved in it. Some of them are actually engineers themselves. They understand the car, sure. But when they're driving, they're just looking at information like signals coming in and out, but they're focusing on driving that car as best they can. And they're doing this under pressure. It's the under pressure bit they are doing under pressure. And that's what you need to do as a trader. They're not driving the car and having deep discussions with the engineers on how certain, debating certain parts of the car. They might be debating a signal going, can I trust it? Can I not trust it? Like quick, fast decision making. But their primary focus when they're on the track is to drive that car through corners with high risk. And some drivers can do that better than other drivers. Now, if you're not into Formula One, you're not really going to understand how pressurized that driving seat actually is. Very few people can be in that driving seat. Now, as a trader, it's not as difficult as being an F1 driver, far easier, but it's got similarities. Okay, let's look at other jobs that are similar. It's like being a pilot of an airplane. The trader is like the pilot, but the pilot under pressure. So a pilot basically in an emergency situation when the plane's not just flying itself. Yes, they need to be doing things in the normal course of their job, but their normal course of their job is quite structured and following process. So in that way, it is quite similar to a trader. But we have a lot more pressure, even though it makes no sense. A pilot, 10,000 meters up in the air has a lot more pressure in theory, but us staring at a screen puts us under far more pressure than that pilot does, and probably because they're trained at their jobs properly. So if you just put a pilot yourself in a plane, that you would probably panic as well. So pilots have actually been trained, but now put a pilot in an emergency situation, they've been trained for it, but suddenly they're under pressure. Okay, so that's probably a bit more relatable to us. Now, what does a pilot do? They have to fly that aeroplane. They do it by following checklists of what to do, and they're problem solving those checklists. They're just kind of going through, and hopefully those checklists work. And then they're managing themselves so they don't go into panic mode. Yes, in the back of their mind, they're like, don't crash. I hope I don't die. Sure. But they're not focused. They're not just flying, going, don't die. You would go into absolute panic mode if you did that. If you focused on the outcome, that pilot would totally crumble. Because if the plane crashes, not just their passengers, it's them as well. Okay. But they're focusing on managing themselves so that they can just follow their checklist and fly the plane. They are doing. Okay. So that's the difference between doing and not just focusing on the outcome. If they do the doing well, they manage themselves, they don't lose their shit, they don't panic, basically, they will get the outcome. They've got the best chance of getting the outcome. Even then, it's not guaranteed, right? Okay. It's the under pressure part that I'm trying to just get across to you. It's the doing under pressure is what the trader does. When the pilot's flying that plane, in that they're problem solving some systems, sure, they're following checklists, and when those checklists don't work, they have to do problem solving. But they're not just diving into engineering and a complete detailed engineering analysis of the aeroplane. Okay, so it's very important to understand that yes, the aeroplane needs engineering. Yes, there's the outcome of it could crash, and the pilot is the thing in the middle that keeps this thing on course by having the willpower to just follow checklists and to manage themselves so that they can follow the checklist. Are you starting to see a little bit of the similarities with a trader, what your job actually is? Okay, I've got another example. A football player. The analyst is the entire team. It's the coaching team, the staff, you've got football analysts on that team. They figure out the play, how it will work. They analyze other teams you're going to play against, and that's why you change the structure of the team. You might play certain players depending on who you're playing. You might play in different formations. But that's the analyst. It's hard to pinpoint it on one person, a football team. I've never worked in a football team, so I don't know it, the details of how they do it. But there's a whole team effort that goes into the analysis part. And then there's individual analysis that is done by each person in that team, sure. But the trader are the actual players. They're the ones that have to be on that field doing the playing, doing the strategy under pressure. And the most pressure often is on the striker or anyone that's near the goal, because they have to maintain this cool, calm, collected, and just do. Sure, they've got a lot of skills, but everyone in that field has skills. At a certain level in football, everyone has skills. Yeah, sure, there's standouts, but everyone has skills. It's who can execute these skills. In practice, as sport goes, I play tennis. In practice, I'm amazing. I'm like, I'm hitting that ball amazingly. I pull off some amazing shots when we're just having a hit. As soon as I get into a game, it's a different story because suddenly I'm under pressure. And the best players are the ones that can execute, operate, do the doing under pressure. Okay. Now, I want to focus in on a big reason. I'm going to take some assumptions of how you're currently trading, what's going on. Because if you're not consistent yet, if you're struggling to manage your FOMO, your fear, your revenge trading, if you're struggling to take profits when they arise, if you're struggling to not move your stop loss, if you're struggling to let a winner run and not have the temptation to move to break even, to trail it so closely so you keep getting tapped out and you never get your winners. If you're struggling with any of the actual doing, I'm going to take some assumptions of how your trading's working, and I'm using my own experience. This is how I used to how my day used to go. Bit rate's a little bit hello, I've got a comment here. Guys, thanks for joining this webinar. That's fantastic. The bit rate's a bit lower than recommended. Okay, hopefully it's not affecting our stream. Now, at the moment, and I want to keep using the pilot example, but at the moment, you don't understand what your job is, so you're struggling to do your job. And the truth is that your expectation is that the job is the analysis, looking at your indicators, and you don't realize actually how hard the trading bit is. It's hard work, and it should be hard work, and it should feel hard at the start to keep control of yourself. You should be constantly having to pull yourself back to control, pull yourself back to control. When I finish a day or a week of having no trades because the setups haven't been right, so I've been there thinking maybe there's a setup and then it doesn't eventuate and I have to control myself not to take that trade. I've done nothing. I've not taken a single trade. By the end of the week, I'm exhausted because it's hard work. And at the moment, my assumption is that you're expecting it to be easy. You're expecting it to just be a kind of a flow state that you could just sit at your computer and trade without working that hard. It feels like hard work. I know, because you're working on the analysis. So it feels like you're doing hard work. I get it. And in theory you are, but you're doing hard work on the wrong thing. Controlling yourself, staying in control, like resisting the urges. And there's ways to make this far easier. If you start working on yourself, you start paying attention, a lot of attention every day, and working on mindset and psychology, this becomes a lot easier. But at the start, if your day trading, when you are trading, if it doesn't feel exhausting, keeping control of yourself, you're not doing it right. It should feel difficult. It should feel, and maybe you can't do it all the time, but the effort, you should feel the effort, because that's the start of it. If you're just sitting, feeling all relaxed, but you're getting the outcomes that you don't want, you keep finishing a session going, oh, I blew another account, I've revenge traded, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. That feels hard, because that's disappointing, that's horrible, and you're going to feel like you've done all the right things, but you haven't spent the effort on the right thing, which is controlling yourself. Controlling yourself at the start is hard work. You should be bloody exhausted after you've done a little session of trading. Now, if you were the pilot, you're a pilot, and your plane is in an emergency situation, if that situation was your trading session, you're doing two things, and both of these things is not the job that the pilot should be doing, but you are doing these two things. One, you're focusing on the analysis, and you're reanalyzing and relooking. You're doing the equivalent of the pilot going into the engineering works of the airplane. The plane's going down, and this pilot's like, so how does the wing, I don't know, the wiring in the wing connect to the wheels? And you're in that level of detail, engineering work, okay? If you are focusing on indicators and getting more information of should I, shouldn't I, you're not on task. You're being the engineer, and that's not your job at this moment. So you've got to figure out, either you haven't done the work when you should have, you haven't done this work before you traded, or you're not doing the job you should be doing right now, which is not that. Okay, so that's one mistake. If you had a pilot flying your plane and there's an emergency, you do not want that pilot getting out his engineering manual and having a good old reassessment of how the entire engineering works. You want that pilot to have a checklist. This is happening, so what do I do? Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so one thing, you need to move from doing the analysis on the job. It's not the time. When you're the trader, your job is not doing analysis, okay? You need to move from analysis to checklists, to just being, is it, isn't it? Is it, isn't it? Trade, no trade. That's your checklist, okay? So you're probably not doing that. When you get to the trade, no trade, you also get to the and it kind of happens in parallel as you're doing all of this. Your personal behavior is constantly wanting to focus on the outcome. So for the pilot, the outcome is don't crash the plane. Now, if they were just thinking of don't crash the plane, I know that everything they're doing is for the purpose of don't crash the plane. But if they were just sitting there thinking, don't crash the plane, they wouldn't be able to think. They'd be in complete emotional panic. They're literally just hanging on going, don't crash, don't crash, don't crash. Your equivalent of that is make money. All you're worried about is, will I make money this session? And it's stopping your ability from doing what the other part of your job, which is managing yourself. Don't focus on the outcome. Don't focus on, will I make money this session? If it's the right trade, you will, and if it's the loss, then if you've done your work correctly, you will have a planned, risk managed loss. That's the outcome. But you've got no hope in how you're guaranteeing a loss. You've got no hope of having a positive outcome, which is a winner. It's the same as a pilot. A pilot has no hope of having a positive outcome, which is not crashing that airplane, if all they're focused on is just don't crash, because their focus is not on what it should be, which is manage yourself so that you can fly this airplane. Fly this airplane. How do I do that? I follow my checklist. You are doing analysis and you are focused on outcomes, which is making you panic. You are not doing your job. That's the honest truth. And it might be a little bit painful to go, oh my God, I've been working so hard. I've been spending all this time, hours, sacrificed lots and lots, and I haven't actually been doing the right job. But we all have to have that realization. I had that realization as well. And chances are I spent a lot more time doing the wrong things than you have. I spent a long time before I figured this out. Once you figure this out and you actually start doing the right things, focusing on the right things. Now, this doesn't mean that tomorrow you're just going to be perfect. But if you start being aware that you're following checklists and not doing fresh analysis, and you start realizing that effort required to control yourself, even if you keep falling off the wagon and you're controlling yourself, but eventually you're just like, oh, I've just got to take this revenge trade. You've at least started that bit of feeling what it's like, controlling. That's the start. That's what it looks like. You'll still make mistakes. You won't be perfect on day one, but you have to start somewhere. Now, remember, pilots have been through training, lots of training on this. They keep doing training on this. They keep going to the simulator. They keep simulating emergencies. Part of it is that you really want a pilot, and not all pilots are equal, but you really want a pilot like the guy that landed the plane in the Hudson quite a few years ago now. Think about the personal control. He wasn't just like, oh, I'll just land here on the. He was like, he would have been like, from training, he would have been good at this, but he would have been like, stay focused, stay on track, don't panic. If I panic, I'm the only hope. If I panic, we're guaranteed a loss. We're guaranteed done for. And if you just have a loss, an ordinary loss, that's a great outcome. Now, if you have an unintended loss because you have panicked, that's not a great outcome, but okay. Tomorrow's a new day and you've understood it. But if you have a terrible outcome, like you revenge trade your entire account away in one sitting, you can have really bad outcomes. Okay. So this is where the work is. This is where the work is. And it's uncomfortable. It can be painful. But just start understanding that you cannot be sitting there worrying about outcomes in full panic mode because I need to make money today. Well, pretty much you can guarantee you're not going to. And just so deep in analysis when you should be trading. And you cannot be that deep in analysis because you need so much effort, so much energy on managing yourself and staying on your checklist. I don't think until you start doing this, you won't understand how much energy and effort it takes. Trading is not sitting there like, boop, 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 boop. Oh, there's a win, there's a win, there's a win. Now, the good news is, after a few years, it can become like that because the impact of all this emotional stuff loses its energy. You grow, you become stronger at doing this, and the panic part loses its energy. So that's quite cool. This gets easier over time. But you have to go through the starting part where it's not easy. Okay. Luckily, that guy that landed that plane on the Hudson had loads of flying experience. And I think he even flew for the Air Force. He was a test pilot. He'd had loads of experience practicing what an emergency looks like. So when it happened to him, I'm not saying that he didn't have flutters of, if I start thinking about crashing and dying and all of that can go wrong, I will actually not be able to do this. He had to control that. I bet you he had small flashes of it, but he was working on controlling himself, and he could actually do it. He made it look easy. Bet you it wasn't as easy as he made it look, but he could do it, and he probably found it easier than, let's say, a fresh pilot would have. A fresh pilot would have had to work very, very hard, and they probably would have had more moments of panic, longer moments of panic, but hopefully had the training to keep pulling themselves back to just focus and do. Okay, so accept the challenge, accept the journey. This is the fun bit. This is where you start doing the right things. This is exciting. Okay, this isn't bad news. It's exciting. Remember, most traders never figure this out. They quit before they realize it. So this is awesome. Now, what do I want to leave you with today? I want to leave you with exactly that. Accept the challenge, embrace it, start studying your heroes that do things under pressure. Go and watch, if you have time off, go and watch documentaries of your favorite football players, your favorite people that are doing work under pressure. And usually it's performance-based work. Usually it's in sports. It's in, the average job is pretty much show up and you'll get paid. You don't have to work too hard. But people like CEOs often have to do things under pressure. They're under pressure. How do they perform? Go and find examples of people that you admire. This is the part of studying success. And go and realize that they're not just coasting through. They have to actually sometimes work through tough things. And as a trader, in a way, every day is working through tough things, because we have to work in an uncomfortable situation, which is an uncertain outcome on every trade. And that's hard. That is pressure. And secondly, if you need help with this, if you need help to do your job, the best thing is to ask for help. So if you want coaching on this, you can contact Gerald on the link below. If you want help with this, I've got a YouTube channel. I'm posting videos constantly. I'm sharing information. Reach out, ask questions in our CTI Discord. Loads of advice there, loads of people to help you. Go and ask for help. If you need help with your job, then get it. Okay. Have a great trading week, the rest of your week. I think it's Thanksgiving in the US tomorrow, so have a great holiday. And just enjoy the journey. Enjoy it. This is a great skill to learn. When you get to the end of the journey, it's amazing. There is no end to the journey. There'll always be something else, but you're on the patchy bit. You're on the bit where you're still in a wagon when the wheels are going over cobbles and it's uncomfortable and it's horrible. But soon you'll get to some tar roads and hopefully rubber wheels. So enjoy it. You have to enjoy the journey, and happiness is a big part of success. It's another secret that I'll share another day. But I hope you enjoyed this. And again, thanks for tuning in. I'll be back next week, Wednesday at 8 o'clock. See you then.